Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how
He's alive!
Welcome to where the weird ones are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but there's a good chance that you probably already knew that. But if you did not, you do now. So today's episode is returning guest Olivia James. She is the author of the Gray Mouse series, currently working on the third installment of that, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's what she said. Third and final, I think. Um, so if you listen to her the first time she was on, it was really interesting. You know, it involves with like government conspiracies, like with the 20 and back and all that shit. Um, this one's pretty interesting too. We get into the talking to um like communicating with the dark side entities, her altars, how everyone has more than one. Um, it's it was a fascinating conversation. I mean, is another just like the last time. I didn't really speak a whole lot, um, but also I'm gonna check out these books because it sounds amazing. But I really hope you guys enjoy this episode and check out her books as well. She is on TikTok and Instagram. So, Olivia James Gray Mouse is what she goes by. But I do want to give a quick shout out to Flavors of the Forest for keeping me flavorified. So this is raw garlic dust, and they have a whole bunch of other flavors like horseradish, ginger, lion's mane. I actually was talking to a gentleman that gets their garlic, and they have cranberry as well, which I feel like I did know, but maybe I didn't. But they have like a cranberry infused garlic dust, which is pretty interesting. So if you want to get yourself, because I guarantee you, once you have it, it's the only garlic powder you're gonna want, because it's 10 times better than anything that you get at the store. At least I think so. So flavorsforest.com, you can get yourself some bottles. You can also follow them on Instagram at flavors forest. So yeah, it is delicious. I love it. So check it out if you're into garlic and you're into flavoring up your food. If you make your own pizza and shit, it's a good, you know? I mean, garlic goes hand in hand with pizza. So, also, you got to keep the vampires away. You got to keep garlic in the house. And maybe that's raw garlic that keeps vampires away. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. So, anywho, I really want to thank everybody that listens to this show. You know, I really appreciate it. I think I mean I say it quite a bit. I didn't start this podcast for a following or anything like that. So the fact that I have one is pretty dope. Um, you know, I don't know, it means a lot and I appreciate it. And some episodes maybe aren't as great as others, but which I will say, yesterday's episode, 186 Conspiracy Tuesday. Um, so yeah, there was some sound problems. Obviously, if you listen to it, you heard it. You might not have even listened to the whole entire thing because of it, but I think Natasha needs to get herself a new fucking microphone because I could not save that audio. But I did my best. You can at least hear her. I think at least when I played it back, I could. So, um, but yeah, with that being said, like, so we get into religious stuff, and I do believe I do believe in God. So I just want to make that clear. The none of the ladies do. Uh, yeah, I don't think out of the I think all three of them didn't or something like that. So I don't know if I stated it strong enough while we were recording. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I mean, my beliefs change every day when I learn new things, and my opinions, just like my opinions on stuff, change from day to day. My opinions on ghosts and s- all this shit. So, but if you did enjoy it, dope. I mean, it's about Robert Johnson. And there is a statement in there that he got fame and fortune. He didn't get fame and fortune until he didn't get fortune. He got fame after his death. So, anyways, I'm going on too long about the last episode. So, um, yeah. So if you like today's episode, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. I would greatly appreciate that, especially after I switched RSS hosts, all my everything changed. The reviews and all that shit that it disappeared, and all the progress that I made just kind of went out the window. So, if you don't mind, if you had left one before, I would appreciate it if you did it again, or if you haven't, just leave one. Even if it's like you leave whatever star rating, and in the review you say podcast. I don't fucking know, but it would be great to get some feedback. Obviously, depending on, like, negative feedback is fine as long as you're not like attacking me as a person, and it's just about how like the show. That's totally fine. Um, so yeah. Anyways, fucking rambling again. So if your catcher doesn't let you leave a review, you can leave one on the website, where the weird ones are podcast.com. That is also where you can get the merch. I have new merch up there. I have it's a I have a Weird Java in the Morning t-shirt that's going up on the website. Supplements I'm starting to put on, so by the time you hear this, at least protein and creatine will be on the website. And because I that those are the clean those were clean. I liked them, so I'm gonna put them out. Um, and you can also get hot sauce, and you can get coffee on the website. So check it out if you want to or don't. Also, if you're interested in supporting the show in another way, I do have a Patreon, $5 a month. You get a free coffee mug, you get a story time every once in a while. Um, you get early access to the show, ad free, music free, everything. Um, so literally, I've been just lately the past couple episodes for my Patreon members, they get the actual conversation without any of the um, without any of the editing, like without the music added, without the intro and everything. So, yeah. All right. So, almost 10 minutes of just talking nonsense at you. Olivia is amazing. I really love listening to her talk. She has a fantastic cadence to her voice. There's no like pausing. It's almost like she gets right to the fucking point, and I love that. And I love the sound of her voice. I could listen to her talk all frickin' day about anything, and not even about these subjects that we have talked in this episode and the previous one. So, but I do think she is the fastest returning guest, I think. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know if you do, let me know if you don't, or don't do anything and just listen to it if you're listening to it. All right. Thanks for giving me your time.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird! Let's get weird! Let's get weird! Let's get weird! Weird! Get weird!
Hey y'all, this is Chelsea Deanne from Station 59, and you are listening to Kevin on Where the Weird Ones Are.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. I have the pleasure of welcoming back Miss Olivia James, author of Gray Mouse and Gray Mouse Purgatory. Which, if you didn't listen to the first episode with her, I highly recommend doing so before listening to this one. So I think the layout and the progression of her story from the first episode will be a good precursor to before listening to this. But anyways, Olivia, how are you tonight?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming back in such a short turnaround. Um, usually I'm not able to get part twos done almost right after the first time. So thank you for being available. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
So yeah, so I guess I'll just, give you the reins and you take the story where we want to go next.
Okay. So I think in the last episode, I kind of did like a background of how I actually got into the programs, kind of like the background with my dad and some of that, the training I did. I talked a little bit about being on Mars and that term of service I did. So there's so many more details, that are part of the story. And if anybody had additional questions, you can refer to the book or some of my social media where I do videos with a lot of the information that I put out. So make sure that everybody gets the information in any type of format. So I was going to talk a little bit about, I think we're talking about altars. So
Yes.
when I was in the psychiatric hospital and I was working, the programmer, when they broke down our psyches, they ended up creating 118 altars inside of me. That's the exact number I was able to obtain with my, remote viewing and hypnosis abilities. I was able to obtain that number. It's 118. And basically from what I found is about 6 of them are kind of like what I describe as the front altars. So those are the ones that, kind of have taken, at some points in my life, a long period of time where they were in control or they were activated, different things like that. So if I'm looking back, over my life, now that I'm older and I've been able to gather all this information and recover my memories, I can definitely see throughout my life where particular altars were kind of shifting or had taken control of me, and were, exhibiting certain behaviors. Because I have different ones that just have different personalities. They have different lives and that kind of thing. So there was a monarch altar, and was an altar that was created in the playroom. and that was created with sexual and physical and psychological abuse. So this particular altar was created for, I hate to say it, but it's like a sexual program. They want you to be very sexualized because they use that. Because the main reason is because sex is power, and they use sex and sexuality for a lot of different things, a lot of different jobs, and whether we want to believe it or not, a lot of times that does work. It's the old word, like they used to use the word honeypot. They don't technically use that anymore, but now they say kind of like monarch. But honeypot used to be the old word for kind of like what we consider like a beta asset. That's somebody that uses sex in order to complete jobs and missions. And a lot of times, some of these are children being used too. I don't want to go too much into that, but it's just that's a fact of it, that they also use children for that. But I did have a monarch altar that kind of took a lot of space in my life and actually ended up, what I think of is pushing me into kind of like a sexual addiction. But it was almost like it wasn't like something that I took pleasure in or that I felt good about, because it kind of consumes your life, and it's to me it feels very stressful. It doesn't make you feel good. It makes me feel sick, kind of. So it's really interesting to see that this particular altar had such an impact on my entire life, and it took a lot of hypnosis and a lot of support for me to kind of integrate that altar back into myself, so I didn't have those type of issues. I didn't have those type of thoughts. I was able to almost like to heal that traumatized part of myself in order to be kind of like on a normal path. So that's one of the altars that I have. Another altar I have is Rachel, and she's kind of like the one that was working on Mars. They wanted her to be very educated, very professional, very diplomatic, and able to move in different kind of like more advanced circles in order to complete jobs in that type of, wherever she may have gone. There's a lot of different professional positions or professional jobs that they wanted her to be able to move in. So Rachel kind of completed that type of work. And I can sometimes tell when Rachel is kind of taking the reins. Well, I used to be able to tell. I don't really have these altars anymore. They're not active anymore. But when it was, I could tell that, it's almost like such a huge shift. You go from being panicked to being very put together and very well spoken, able to do different types of jobs, that kind of thing. That's kind of what Rachel was for, is to kind of be that very authoritative professional person. There was so many. There's one altar that was the one that really has a big impact on me, is the gray mouse altar. So that gray mouse altar is particular to me. I've had some people say that they're gray mouse too, and I can't speak for that because I know this specific thing was definitely particular to me. They would have to find their own altars and their own code words and what that meant to them, because I don't remember it being like a blanket term for other people. That was something that was specific to myself. And it was this gray mouse was this particular type of altar that they wanted me to be able to get in and out of places quietly. They wanted me to almost like disappear into a crowd. So do not look, don't have any type of remarkable traits that someone would notice. They don't want you to be noticed. They want you to just keep moving, get in, get out, do the mission, and not be seen, not be, asked questions. And whether you know it or not, it's kind of easy. That was kind of probably the easier one to do, is to be unnoticeable, because you can make yourself disappear. There's various, images of a person. There's various behaviors that'll make people not want to look at you, which is a really weird part of human psychology. They think of people as almost like, in some certain types of people, as invisible. So sometimes if they had us do corporate espionage type jobs, we would take on that persona of being some type of like very kind of low level janitorial position, and a lot of people, if they're coming in these big buildings, they don't pay attention to a janitor or, what they would consider like a maid or, just some type of regular cleaner in the building. They wouldn't look to that person and say, yeah, that's the person, especially a woman, that's the one that's doing this. They would never know. They would never see it coming. Yep. And things like that. They never would. So, and they never did. They never saw that coming. So that's why they use specific people like us, and whether people want to believe it or not, they do use a lot of women for various jobs. On Earth, there's, in regular life, they have an idea about what they think women are capable of, and what role women should play in this world. And I hate to tell people, it's just not the truth. We've had to conform ourselves to a lot of things in order to play that role for them. But in the programs, it's completely different. They use us for just about anything. And not saying that, women are capable of doing things that men aren't. That's not the point. It's just the fact that they won't expect it from us. That's why they know that we're good at it, because they never expect. So I always think about this. If they wanted a job where there was a man that needed to be, completed, I always say we used to call it outcomes. If there's a specific thing they want you to do, we'd call it an outcome. So if they wanted you to complete a particular outcome, usually they don't send a large man to meet a man to complete that job. They'd send a woman that would get the job done, because you would notice a large man coming, infiltrating your life, and maybe to do something, unsavory. Let's just say that. I don't want to say too much, but unsavory. I think people can get what I'm saying. They wouldn't send a man
Yeah.
for that. They'd send a woman, because you wouldn't see that coming. You wouldn't recognize that behavior. You would never expect it. That's how they've been able to do this for so long. People don't understand that. They think, in the movies, it's all men doing that. And there are a lot of men. There's a lot of male super soldiers. I know a lot of them personally, so there's a lot of them. But there's also a lot of women that were in the programs. I actually met a couple people that I actually did jobs with in the programs, and we were able to meet each other here, just in our normal lives. So it's really interesting to see that happening. So Gray Mouse did a lot. I don't know if I talked about this last time, about one of the most dangerous jobs I did as Gray Mouse. Did I talk about that?
No, you didn't. We just it was your past lives,
Okay.
and then the Mars and the moon.
Okay. So I was gonna say there was a lot of back and forth when I was being used. So they used me for a while. They took me off planet. They returned me, but since I was coded to be re-entered into this life at any time, they did use me for various things. And they use a lot of us assets, based on your location and your availability, that kind of thing. They will reuse you again. So, and this was when I was a bit younger, I want to say in my 20s, but this was probably one of the most dangerous jobs I did, because corporate espionage, I think, is the most dangerous, because there's so much money involved. And when there's money and power involved, people are cutthroat, they're bloodthirsty. And I always felt like it was me or death. Like if I didn't finish it, I felt like I was going to die, and everybody ever knew was going to die. That's how serious this was. So there was a group of us that they got hired, and there's a couple of other girls and me, and they wanted us to go into this big building, and it's a major media corporation here in America, pretty well known. And they wanted us to go in there, and there was some information in a server room that they wanted changed, stolen, always the same thing, changed or stolen. And so they had us, what we did is we kind of there was a bar near this big building. There was a bar near it. So we kind of hung out at this bar, just kind of like a stakeout, just checking it out. We're dressed normally, like we're having a drink, girls' night, something like that, just to see who came in and out. And so the next day, when we went into the building, we went in as kind of like janitorial staff. So we were wearing these like white outfits. And, when I was walking in the building, it's so much pressure. Everything had to be perfect. I mean, literally down to the way I'm, make eye contact, but not too much eye contact. Swing your arms, but not too much. Take a sip of water, but don't show too much of your face. But don't hide your face. Don't carry a purse. Don't carry ID, except for the fake ID they made. It was so detailed how every move I made had to be specific, purposeful, and just exact in order to get in and out of this building without being noticed. It was so hard. And And these big buildings are on high alert for some reason. It seemed like more locked down than like a government building. It's really interesting. But to me that means
Man.
like they might have something to hide. So, and
Right.
we already knew that they had something to hide. What's the point? Obviously because we're going into there. And what I found out is that this big, huge media company is run by Satanists. It's owned by Satanists. And I think that's really interesting. So, because I've always seen, that name on different magazines and things when I was growing up, I was like, wow, they're owned by Satanists. That's really interesting. So this job that we did, we were really close to completing it. It was, what I find is weird is that the jobs I did by myself were easier to manage than those on a team, because when you're putting so many people together, you have to account for their altars, their business, all the movements they're making. And that's too much pressure to, I'm already thinking about myself. I can't worry about these other girls and, what kind of training they've had and things. So we were all moving to get our job done, and it didn't, it was really close, but we ended up getting kind of, I don't know what you call it, detected in a way. They detected something wrong in the building when we were heading that way. And so we ended up having to go down an elevator shaft, which is awful because I'm afraid of heights. And once we got out of the building, there was no car waiting for us because we missed, the pickup. Because of our mistakes, we missed the pickup. And if you miss your pickup, you're in big trouble, and you have to get back to your mark at a certain time, or it's curtains for you. So I just, put my hoodie on and I just started walking, and I made it back. I don't know what happened to them. That's, I have no idea. But that, to me,
You
that was
never
one of the
saw them
dangerous
again?
jobs. I haven't had any memories of other jobs with them, but I know they're alive. But I don't have memories of other jobs with them. I don't know if we weren't put back together in the same group, probably. So that was just one of the most dangerous jobs that Gray Mouse did. There was another one where they wanted me to go. Somebody was speaking at a college, so they had me wait in line, and it was I can't even remember the person's name, but it was somebody important, that it was kind of like the beginning of like an intel gathering mission, and this totally got botched. Whoever made my IDs or whatever, and when we were getting checked and everything to go in there, because everybody for some reason they had security to see this person, and something was wrong with the ID, and I thought there was going to be a hassle or somebody was going to freak out, so I had to fake like a fainting episode and like I was sick, so they wouldn't put so much emphasis. So I totally botched that one. I totally botched that mission. But I mean, that kind of stuff happens all the time because it's so dangerous and there's so many factors. It's hard to, make everything perfect every single time. But those are some of the altars. I know I do have an occult altar, and she has a really interesting name, and she calls herself Judith of Mysteries. So this kind of occult altar is kind of the one that, I don't know, a lot of people have interest in. A lot of different groups and agencies, and they have a lot of interest in this particular altar for some reason. So there was a couple of secret agencies that wanted me to be trained in, to further my occult knowledge or whatever. I don't know what they were trying to do. And I think it's weird that they wanted me to be trained, because I know now that I know what I can do, with my abilities, I don't see how anybody's books would have furthered that. It's all from, it's all coming from within. I didn't need a book to do it. So I think it's really interesting that they try to train me to do like occult things. And so this memory was really distinct. I was having this memory about being in this building, and a woman called me outside to stand outside, and it was kind of like an older woman. She was smoking a cigarette, and she just, she was trying to be real serious with me. And she was like, you've been working on this a long time. She's like, it's just time. You have to decide if you're going to sign the book. She just said it, just plain as day. And there's a group that they had me training with, and what we consider like they're kind of like elite type of groups, and they do a lot of weird things. And this particular group considered themselves like very high up into the occult and occult magic, dark magic kind of thing. So they are using what I thought, from what I remember, they're using a lot of like old books, like old Sumerian religious texts. I don't know even know where they got this stuff. Who knows if it was been passed down in their family or something, but they wanted me to be rebirthed under Isis. So they think that they tied me to a specific entity in their eyes. And now that I'm me, they think that they were upset that I let that go. They wanted to know why I don't continue, in my studies, in my, devotion, things like that. And it's because I'm not like them. I was forced to do that kind of thing. That's not something that's inside me, and that's not something I'm interested in. But the crazy part is I saw them, and they're witches. I saw them. I was doing a remote viewing session, trying to get information about my memories and things like that. So I kind of pushed myself into this area, and I always kind of see this area, and it's like a house. When you're dropping away the limits of the physical, you can create these things. And I always push myself to create like a house in the ether, just like that's my place. If somebody wanted to come find me, they could find me there. So I pushed myself into this house, and I'm working with hypnotherapists and things like that. And she's kind of guiding me, like, what do you see? Kind of what's there. And I know I see people in the distance walking towards my house that I've, created with my mind. They're here. And they walk up, and it's 3 of them, and they look like siblings. They're kind of very pale hair. They all have like blonde hair, and they holding a book in their hand, and they're kind of like, they drew the one girl. She kind of walked forward, and she put her foot out, and she kind of drew a line in the dirt with her foot, and she said, "Do you want to go to war with us?" And they're trying to say that I left, their kind of circle, that I left them.
Yeah.
And they literally said that, "Do you want to go to war with us?" And, obviously I don't. I'm just me. And I was kind of like nervous because there's 3 of them. I don't really know, it's weird. I don't know what they want me to do, and I don't know what they think I can do. I didn't even know what they wanted, except I knew who they were, and I knew they had decided that they wanted to train me, and they maybe participate in rituals with them and things like that under Isis. They dedicate themselves to Isis. And I was kind of nervous, and I thought, they're probably going to kill me. I don't know, because it feels so real when things are happening in the astral, when you're pushing yourself into these different realms. To me, it's real. I don't consider it to be fake or something made up. It's not. It's a real thing. So there was something. I felt very nervous, and something kind of was above me. And I looked up, and there was this huge being, and it was kind of over the house I built. And it definitely told me its name was Meru, Meru. And it tried to give me information in my head. And it said that he told me, "You need to call the winds." And I didn't know what that meant, but something inside me knew. And I somehow did call the winds, and you could literally see them kind of like back up a little bit with wind and blowing towards them. It's blowing, pushing them back. And I know that they stepped back, but they're definitely not over the fact that I had left, their circle and didn't continue, because I have this information about them. That's not something they want me to have. They don't want to be known. They like to keep their rituals and things they do in the dark. They don't want it to be known. So when we're thinking about Isis, what I found about her is so interesting. I actually was able to let her speak through me and get a lot of information from her. So she was one that is very forthcoming about who she is and what she does. And she is very excited. She thinks, because she's made such a comeback, everybody thinks they're part of Isis. They're reincarnated as Isis. They think they are her. They're, getting tattoos. She's made this huge comeback. And when she spoke through me, she said she wanted to thank everybody for doing that. She said that's how she's been able to live again, is by getting more new worshipers. And they've allowed her to live again through that worship and that reverence that they're providing her, that attention, to her image and things like that. She had been worshipped in the past for so many years. She even still had groups that worship her, but to have it on such a large scale, she hadn't seen that since ancient times. And she wanted to,
Oh,
the message she gave me is that she said that she is coming here to take the world. She said it's because they were here first and that we're the invaders, and that in the beginning there was a barrier put up between their world and ours, and they can't move freely. That's why they have to be invited into our space. And she said that that's where, we think that comes from vampires, but she said that's from them, that you have to be invited. You know how that old vampire legend, somebody has to be invited in?
yes.
Isis says that's from her in Legion. They have to be invited into your space. And it's true. From what I'm learning, I've never had an entity kind of like force its way into me. It's always by invitation, by, wanting, thinking about it, wanting something different, wanting to escape, wanting to, leave the body, things like that. And I hate to say it, but I know this to be true because I used to be one of them. So I know how that works. I know that I used to do the same thing. I would try to get somebody to let me invite them into their space. So definitely that was really interesting to see them and how they didn't want me to disconnect, but they didn't understand that that was forced from MK Ultra. It wasn't something natural
Right.
to me that I was pursuing. So I still want to explore that particular, incident and them more, just to see, why they thought I was important to them, or maybe just because of my ability, I probably would, be able to be important to some people that were into that kind of thing just because of what I can do. So
Yeah, it seems like all your abilities seem to be um I don't know the word, but it just seems to be like more worthy of their time. It almost, you know what I mean? Like, cause is that making sense? Cause like your remote viewing and
yeah.
stuff like that is, I don't know, the story that you told last time, and just so this is where I would want to go with that is
Hmm.
the past lives when you were talking about what they saw in you
Hmm.
at an early age through your past lives and stuff. I feel like that I I feel like that has something to do with why they have, like, for the lack of a better word, a hard on for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they had to have known that I was a Jinn before. And why wouldn't
Yeah.
they want a Jinn in their group? If they're who
Yeah.
they think, if who they say they are, these worshippers of Isis. Isn't it strange that Isis is one of the darker ones, and we think of her as this, like, she even says that you've made me into a lovely, young angel. And she said, I am an angel, but I am an angel of darkness. That's what she told me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, everybody gets mad at me when I say that. I'm not trying to say, she's one thing or another. I'm just saying exactly what I was, exactly what she said through me. That's it. I'm not making any assumptions about who I think Isis is, because I know people worship her. That's just what she said. That's the reality of it. She did say that. I had
Yeah.
witnesses, I
Yeah.
recorded it, everything. So it wasn't like I made it up. She just said that. And so there was so many different, kind of like occult experiences that happened that way, especially with the hosting. I think I talked a little bit about going into the elites' houses, right? And hosting for them.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
did some of that. And so, they kind of took that, they were taking that kind of far. They were wanting, to build their own army, of what they think is like a demonic bloodline. They're trying to take that pretty far. And, they want to use a lot of different psychics, to do that. I actually did a remote viewing session, which was really interesting. This is the farthest I've ever gone. I haven't traveled this far to the dark side. I traveled so far through, I reached to a place called like the Outer Realms, and something is there. And when I looked at it, it looked like this almost like circular door. There's something way at the Outer Realms. There's like a circular door, and I don't know how to access it. I don't know what's behind it, but I know it's very protected, and there's something. I don't want to say it's something good, because I don't believe that. I think it's something powerful and dark back there. So That's the farthest I've ever gone, through the dark side, is to reach the outer realm where I see that there's a locked door there. And I really don't have the balls to go to knock on the door or go past. I haven't been that brave yet. I'm just like, I saw it, I know it's there, and I don't know what it is. And I'm not sure if anybody's ever going to know what it is, because I don't think any of us are going to be brave enough to, because when you get something close like that, you feel it. You know that, there could be, your end if you try to go past there. It's not unknown. You can feel it inside you that I have to get back. I have to back up a little. And even on that same session, I traveled to look, and I was immediately pulled to this area. So there's like this family that has this kind of like gated, big gated area. And behind there, they have, I don't know, you know who Leviathan is?
Yes.
Have you heard of him? Yeah, he's back there.
I do. Wow.
He's back there. And he didn't look like, I know a lot of, I'm just saying, I'm not going to tell people what to think or what they believe in. It's just from what I specifically saw that day, he looked just like kind of like a giant blob. He didn't look like a dragon. He didn't look like, all these images that people have of him, like a sea serpent. I didn't see that. All I saw was this kind of almost like a giant plasma blob thing. And very sentient, very huge. And he's almost like he's trapped back there. It's almost like this family keeps him back there, and they have the key and everything. But I know that he's not trapped. He's doing that for his own entertainment, which I thought was really interesting, that they think they have control of him. He's allowing that because it's almost like a form of entertainment for him. He keeps, and he says all these very, grandiose things, I am all seeing, all knowing, ask me whatever you want kind of questions. And he did give us some information. So, it was really interesting to see that, something that we, see in movies and things like that, and to see what it really looked like. I was like, it didn't look like anything that I thought it would. It just looked like a giant blob with a million eyes in it. So he was
really
back there.
Interesting.
He's kind of stuck back there doing who knows what, just playing with this family and pretending that he's locked up just for funsies. I think that's interesting that he's playing this game for them, I had a couple of other run-ins with, when I first started getting my memories back, the very first session I did, I somehow had something entangled in me for a really long time. And I probably had invited it at some point just because, I don't know, I had so much, I had so many altar shifting, I didn't quite know. So during my first session that I ever did, it took like 2 hours to kind of figure out what this thing was and what it wanted. And I had a very kind of like newer hypnotist at the time. So I think she tried to battle it and try to give me an exorcism, and that didn't really work because I'm not able to be exorcised. So I think she tried really hard, and she fought with this thing, and its name was the Abyss. It was so old, it didn't even have a name anymore. It just called itself the Abyss. It was so old, and it had wrapped itself almost like I don't know, it almost looked like one of those things you cook on a grill. It was wrapped around kind of like my organs. And when I tried to view the inside of my body, I saw my organs, and I saw like eyes and teeth kind of like stuck around it, kind of where he was kind of hiding. And he was in there because he was actually afraid to leave. He said he had been in there so long that he didn't know where to go and how to get out. And this, I'm talking about, this is an elder god. This is an ancient being that was, and we were supposed to be afraid of these things, but in that moment, I literally felt sympathy for his plight. He was terrified. He didn't know where to go. He didn't know who he was. He said he lost all his followers. He said he was dying. He said, the light doesn't want me. I fell too hard. That's what he told me. He said, I can't go to the light. I fell too hard. They don't want me there. Things like that. I was almost in tears. It was so sad to see something so pathetic that it was, deciding to be a parasite just to stay away because it didn't know where else to go. It was really sad. It took a really long time to convince it, to leave. And at the end, it was so stressed. This thing was so stressed out that at the end, it was almost trying to commit suicide. It was saying, I'm just going to kill myself. I'm going to go in the, in the deep ocean and go to sleep forever because nobody wants me around. It's so interesting to see that, they're different from what we've been trained to think they are. And this thing was like almost wanting to commit suicide because it was so sad. And I'm like, oh my
Dang.
goodness. It ended up leaving. But still, I kind of think about it sometimes, like, I wonder what happened to him. Did he find somewhere to go, or I know it left me, but, and I didn't, when he left, I didn't feel any huge, like, relief or
Relief.
difference. No, I
Yeah.
almost didn't. I thought I would feel something different, but I didn't. I felt sad. I felt sad for him, that he didn't know where to go and he didn't have any people. He didn't even know his own name. He was so old. He had been around for so long.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like these like names that are, or these old gods or little
Mhm.
g gods, I guess they would be, a lot of people refer to them as, like,
Yeah.
such as like Lilith and Isis and stuff like that,
Mhm.
like sacrificial gods and all that. They're like hidden in like certain things that we do in our day to day, just like we talked about the sun. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure Amun Ra is the dog looking thing, or is that, no? That's Anubis. I'm sorry.
Yep.
But Amun Ra is the sun god, and sun worship um is like sort of like, I'm not 100% sure. I thought I was sure when I started talking just now, but I'm pretty sure I thought I was sure that it was like associated with like almost like Satanism in a way. And they hidden the name, the beginning of his name in Christianity, in Catholicism and stuff,
Mhm.
where, after you say a prayer, you say amen, and that's
Oh,
supposedly
right. Right.
a nod to
It's the
Amun
Egyptian.
Ra.
Yeah. You know
Yeah.
what's really interesting? I've talked to so many entities. I've let so many entities, speak through me. So many. I've never met
Hmm.
or seen one or heard of one named Satan. Never. Not once. Never.
That's because Satan doesn't exist.
Never heard of him.
In
And yeah,
my opinion.
never heard that name. Nothing. None of the other entities speak of it. And a lot of times they talk about, Legion. They always say
Yeah.
that. What you reminded me when you said the name Lilith, she's actually one that helped remove the abyss from my organs. She made her
Oh, okay.
hand into a like almost like an eagle claw, and she pulled them out. She helped pull them out, and she said she'd help him get to where he needed to be. Which I don't know. She could have took him somewhere that I didn't ask her. Hey, where are you taking him? I didn't say. But
Yeah.
she helped kind of like pull that out. She's also different from what, a lot of people think, in my opinion. I've met her so many times, and she's always given me these beautiful messages about, duality and kind of, being your whole self and not just letting yourself be, almost like that fake part of thinking don't pretend like, she always tells me, don't pretend like you're, some normal human, she called me specifically, Lil said, she called me a shadow student. And she said, it's nothing to be ashamed of, that I came here to kind of work in the shadows. We still need people like that. She says, not everybody can be like that, that light part. We also need that other part for people to learn, So I appreciated it when she said that. I did have another incident with a particular one. I don't know if you've ever heard of Abraxas. So
Yes, I actually I have an episode about Abraxas.
yeah, so he's very different from what, books say and things like that. And this is really interesting for me when I meet them directly, because I don't look up anything. Sometimes I don't even know these names until after I do it, and then I look up the name and I'm like, oh, it is a real thing. So Abraxas, he is almost like a trickster god. And when he comes in, it was almost like, that showman, like, hey, how's everybody doing tonight? I'm here, for the party kind of thing. That's his vibe. Like he's always, and he's very sexualized. So I had to try to get rid of him he tried to come through me and speak, and he's literally pretty much sexually harassing the hypnotherapist, let me, kiss you, let me do this, do you want some friends? You need, anything he could say to try to
Oh
get
shit.
somebody interested in him. And she was just like, nope, no, thank you. I'm good. I don't need your assistance with anything. And he could see that he wasn't getting anywhere. So he really didn't stick around too long. They're not going to stick around where they're not wanted. Let me tell you that. People think that, oh, they're going to stay around. Why would you if they don't? If somebody's like, no, thank you. You're not going to. So he didn't. He kind of
Right.
snuck out really quick. But he was I almost think of him as like a slimy type, seductive. He tried to play that seductive role. Very slimy. Like, yeah, he thinks he's the best and he said everybody loves him. Everybody wants him around. And I'm like, okay. Thank you for your information. So you just thank them for the information, thanks for stopping in, and they leave. I've never had one that's kind of like lingering, except for the very first time, because that was before I knew how to do this and I gotten very advanced with it. It was just that first one, the Abyss. So there's some yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The first one, you got advanced with Abyss.
Yeah, he was the first one that I
Is that what you
really
said?
yeah, because that was my very first time of doing it, and I didn't know who I was or what I could do. So
Right.
that particular thing kind of probably scared me, and now I'm not afraid of it, but I was then. Just
Okay.
because I'm like everybody else. I've been trained to think that, I'm going to be annihilated by these things, and definitely we are very, very strong. They've never overpowered me in any way. I had one time. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
A lot of people don't realize that we are the light. That's like in the. I mean, a lot of people that listen to the show, I'm sure, are not religious, and don't really have a faith base or anything, but with like God created us in His image, and He is a light being. So therefore, I think we are light. And I think, like you said, we have. I think deep down we have a whole lot of abilities that we don't know about. Like the last episode you were on, I talked about how we only use 5% of our brain. So imagine what we can do if we unlock the rest of it.
Exactly. That's how I feel when I do this every time. Like, imagine if other people could see that they could do this and travel to the outer realm and see a door like that hasn't been accessed before. It's insane, like, to be able to do these kinds of things. And I feel like it's such a big thing, and it's hard to explain it to people. And I wish I could pull somebody into, to be with me when I'm doing it, just so they could see what I'm seeing. And, I've had a couple of psychics that could do that, and, we could see the same thing at the same time. And that's very cool. That's very cool to see what when I'm doing the remote viewing, and then they can see it too. That's very cool. It's like an extra layer. But I'm just on this kick of these entities. I think it's so interesting. Like I said, I was talking before about Bacchus, and he's Isis always talks about him, how that's her little brother. And, she apologized because he's not an ambassador. She said she likes to schmooze people. So she considers herself like an ambassador of Legion. And, she said, don't worry about Bacchus. Bacchus considers himself my father, but she said he's kind of like, she thinks he's brash and abrasive when he speaks, because he's very, he considers himself kind of like on a high level, authoritative, and he doesn't like, he definitely doesn't like disrespect, because that dark side has a very strict hierarchy. They take it very serious. They take disrespect very serious. I don't know how, whatever ancient times, whatever happened, they still take that, very serious. Like, how dare you disrespect me, kind of thing. That's kind of what sets them off sometimes when they come through. If somebody says, get out of here, they obviously get upset, that kind of thing. But there's been so many. I spoke with like Lady Death, Santa Muerte. She came through, and that was amazing. So she has like this, what do you call that? Like a fire, and she has that. When you see that makeup of like the Day of the Dead type makeup, the skeleton face, She almost looked like she was in native clothing, and she had her face painted like that. She looked very wild, very
Oh wow.
not tame. Like it was hard to explain. She looked almost wild. She did look wild. Like she wasn't even like, didn't look like the image that we would think of like in some like long dress. No, she looked like from the earth. Like she was a wild person. And she invited us to sit at her fire, come sit with me, discuss, to discuss, her life. And she said that they used to leave like vegetables and fruit out in the fields for her at night. And that, she's willing to do that. A lot of these entities, they say they're willing to come back and accept the, the reverence. They're waiting for people to call on them. And people do. She's actually got a very huge following in different parts of the world. She's actually made a comeback in terms of, but she was kind of like a fertility and harvest goddess. So her name changes, that's why it's not something new to her. She's been around for so long, and just the name changes depending on the people who revere her. And that was so interesting. I put a lot of that in my book, the conversation I had with her about the kind of things she said and the things she, wanted to do and things she wanted to see in the world. She gave so much amazing information about duality and the dark side. And it was amazing to see her, speak about that. I don't know if because, I talk a lot about the dark side and things, but I wanted to talk about some of the more different type figures that come through. I don't know should I talk about that?
Yeah, sure.
And like I said before, I'm not religious, but I kind of wanted to prove to myself that I'm not just like this dark thing that everybody thinks I am. I can be a host, or I can be a medium for anything that wants to come through. So in this session, I decided I wanted to host, kind of like a major religious figure. I wanted to prove it to people. I'm not the demon that they think I am. So I let Jesus speak through me and his mother. So Jesus and his mother came, and he talked about, it was amazing to see the crucifixion. And he told me, he showed me, he let me feel it. He let me feel it, and he felt me at the same time. It's like we were connected. I saw in his mind, he saw in mine. It was amazing to see it. And he showed me that when he was on the cross, his feet were the most in pain, because his arms lost feeling. They lost that, they were numb. So actually the feet were most in pain. I would have thought it was the arms because he was hanging, but he said it was the feet that were the most painful part of his body. And that when he was up there, he showed me where he really was in his mind. He was a dissociate. He showed me that when he was on the cross, he had placed himself in this very beautiful kind of like garden, and he was just laying there and resting. So when we think of like the torture and everything that we think he experienced, in his mind, he was in an amazing, beautiful place. He was able to experience it different than what we think of it. And it was amazing to see, his ideas about that. And he said that what he did that day, he wanted to show the world what he could do. And he said in doing that, he wanted to show us all what we could do by leaving the physical limits of the body behind. He said, that's not the real you. He wanted to show us that just by that. He said it wasn't for anything else but to show us what we could do ourselves. So when his mom came through, his mother, I saw her in a garden, and I went up to her. She was so young. And so, just like we, very lovely. She had a veil on. She took it off. She said, it's too hot. Very, dark hair, really very young looking. Almost looked like she was like 19. Very, very young. And
wow.
she too gave some really interesting messages, different from what I would have thought. And she said, she wanted a question for the world. Why do you not call on me? You treat me like an object. She said, don't you know how important it was? She said, we don't just birth children. We birth tides, tornadoes. She said, I birthed the Christian era. Do you know how big that is? Do you know how huge that is? That I birthed an entire era. And that statement, just like, it always stuck with me, that she said that. I birthed an entire area. We birthed tides. We birthed tornadoes. Just that hugeness springing from her womb, what she gave birth to, And she said that she barely could walk around the day of his crucifixion. She had to have people help her, walk around. She couldn't handle it. She said, I couldn't stand seeing my child up there. She said, any parent would be distraught, anyone. She said, why do people, think that I'm not, capable of that human emotion? She's like, I was dying inside watching this. But she said, I knew he came here and he said he volunteered. But she still is angry at the people that brought him to that point. But even though she knew that he came here for something special, it was still hard because she said, I'm a parent. That's why I'm a mother. And she said, I'll be a mother to you all now. She said, that's why she's here. She said, call on me and I'll come, so she wants to take on that kind of like mother role as we move into like the new era. As she said, there's so much new things happening. And they were speaking, and then Lucifer came, and they invited him, and Jesus said, this is my brother, and Lucifer said that. He said, yes, I understand that you all see me as the villain in your life. And he said that it's okay if we want that. He said, it's up to you what you want to see in your world. He said, I will allow that. And he said he will be a martyr in order for us to have that experience. He said, I will martyr myself just as my brother has done. If you want me to be the villain in your life, I can be. I can be that monster for you if that's what you need. He said, I will be willing to sacrifice myself for you all. So he's saying, and they were all kind of saying, yeah, you put your blame on things, these things that you think are what are haunting your world, and it's us. It's human against human. It's our own selves, doing the damage. It was so amazing to see. And then Jesus and Lucifer led me and my hypnotherapist in a prayer together. It was, when you have an experience like that, it's like, how can I be a normal person now? When I just had Lucifer and Jesus lead me in a prayer. I'm expected to walk around and be a normal person and not to tell the world about this. I can't hold it. I can't hold it.
Right.
I had to write everything about it in the book. In my second book, it's all this whole conversation is there. I had to. It was too important. It was just too important to hold in and keep it from everybody, And it's not even like they said, yeah, go out and tell the world. They didn't force me to do anything. They didn't say I had to do anything. It's, it's my choice, what I wanted to do. And even when I let Source speak through me, that was something that I can't even explain the feeling that you get when something so big takes over your body. I mean, my body was acting like I was in a seizure. I was like, the whole thing was shaking because the energy was so strong. It was trying to make itself small in order to speak through me. And it gave the most, and this is exactly what I think God would say. It said the most simple message. It said, I am ultimate, but I am small too. He said, I am the ultimate, but I am also minute. And he said, we all look to the grander things in life to see, the vision of the divine. But he said that it can also be in the small things, like a kiss or a hug or telling someone you love them. And he said, that's when you really see Source, to tell someone you love them. He said, that's me. And he also was talking about, all these different dark spirits and entities that I'm dealing with. He said, just transmute with love and you will know me. And it's like very simple message. And I know it's hard to explain to people when I'm having these experiences, because I feel like they can have it too if they want to, if they drop that fear, they can have the same experiences and they can, see different things for themselves. They don't have to listen to me. I'm not telling people to believe everything I say. I'm not saying that. That's just the experience that I have had with these different entities. And, even Jesus and Mary, I consider them entities because you know what? It felt the same. Jesus feels the same as Lucifer. Mother Mary felt the same as Lady Death inside me. It was an even, kind of like an even energy, which is so interesting to think of. You would think that you'd feel light and you feel dark. I don't. I felt the same. It was all one thing. It was all one feeling. And they weren't afraid of each other. Jesus isn't afraid of Lucifer. Jesus isn't afraid of demons. Demons aren't afraid of him. That's that's why I'm wondering, why are we afraid of them if they're not afraid of each other? It was a very interesting dynamic and conversation with all these different beings, to have all this different otherworldly information. And then, I kind of tell them, I'm just a girl. What do you want me to do with this? What can I do about this? And, a
Yeah.
lot of different beings and spirits, even my own father, when he comes through, he just said, tell people about it. Let them make their own choice, Maybe they can search on their own and find their own, perspective or ideas about the world.
Right. That makes me feel like one of the things that I've always thought about religion is because, like organized religion is a man-made concept, I mean, obviously, like the Bible and stuff, it has what I guess would be like, I don't know for sure because, I don't, but supposedly true stories in it. And I think organized religion, once once they started organizing, it was perversed into trying. I think like the whole point, like it was meant to be like a morality thing. I think,
Yeah.
where it was started to be like, listen, keep a moral compass. This is, following a religion, having a faith base. Then people aren't afraid to die. But they also know that there are things that like people should not be doing, like murder is one of them.
Right.
And like all these other terrible things. But I think that if based on what you're experiencing or have experienced, it's almost like they want us to be afraid of something. So, like the Monster Inc. movie or
Yeah.
whatever, they're sucking our energy through fear. It's
Right.
almost kind of like that kind of thing. That makes me feel like that was proposed in that way, and it has evolved over time into what it is now, to where everybody's like demon scary and
Ex-
stuff like
oh,
that. So
trust me, I know. Anytime I try to even discuss it, everybody's like terrified. And it's just, I just didn't have that experience. And trust me, I was terrified of everything. I've always been. I was sleeping with the light on until, a few years back. I really had,
mhm.
maybe something in me really needed to deal with that fear, so I could tell people about this, and that really, the enemy is within us. We're attacking each other, kind of thing. So
Right,
it was
right.
so
So
interesting. Like,
with you being able to tap in to all of these other entities and stuff and invite them into your space,
mhm,
are and you said your father comes through too, so
yes,
is is there are there like regular human spirits,
yeah,
like what we think as ghosts, just roaming around us all the time?
yeah, yes,
Okay.
yeah. And actually, to me, they're they're scarier than demons.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know
I
why.
would say,
I don't know why. It's just their energy and their behavior is so erratic. When they're ghosts and like they're lost kind of ghosts, they kind of
yeah,
are scary because they're almost unpredictable in a way, to me anyways. Like if somebody had passed over and they come and they have beautiful messages, that's cool and everything, but sometimes they're discarnates and they're angry, and they want to punch me in the face or something. And that's a little interesting
oh
because
wow,
they do talk very scary because they still have that. I wonder if it's
the
human
human
emotion.
emotion.
And you
Yeah,
think, you
that's what
think
I'm
it might
thinking.
be human emotion because, a demon doesn't have human emotion. That's why they don't talk like a human, because they don't have emotion.
You're right.
I didn't have
All
emotion
right.
when I was a djinn. I didn't feel bad for what I did. I felt happiness and joy when I was stalking people because that was my job. So that's why it's so different, and it's so it's so weird that when we thinking about like ghost hunters and stuff, everybody's, running away from one little noise and thing. Like, you guys have no idea. There's so much crazy stuff out there. There's probably one standing right behind you, like tapping you on the shoulder, and you can't even see it.
I
They get very angry.
It's fun. It's funny that you bring that up because I'm actually gonna start doing ghost investigations and stuff, and I guess I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat, I guess. So it's and I know they're not gonna harm me, but like the noise, this like being startled, it's the startling. You know what I mean? Does
Oh
that
yeah.
make sense? Like the random noise and the random thing, and then it's also like an excitement kind of thing too.
Oh, you know
If
what?
that makes
This is
kind of
really strange. I'm terrified of that kind of stuff because in my
are
normal
you?
everyday personality, I'm a girl. I'm just a girl. I always say that. But my strength is when I let myself go into that trance state. Then I'm the real me. I connect to my highest self and I'm strong. But in
Oh,
my
okay.
normal everyday, if you took me to a ghost hunter place, I'd be terrified of every little sound. So I'm not big bad, ghost hunter. I don't even want to pretend to be that. That's not me. I would have to be in trance in order to have that strength, and I understand that.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and I think like like what you're talking about too, when they're reacting to the noises too. Like I think they do it in the darkness just so that they freak themselves out to begin with. So when they
Hmm.
do hear a noise, they over exaggerate. Which is
A lot
it.
of
I mean, it's
entities make
fun to
the
watch,
noises because
but
they think it's funny. They think it's funny
oh,
to
I
do that.
believe that
They
100%.
do.
I believe
They're
that
like, they think it's
100%.
hilarious. Like they make one noise and everybody's like freaking out. They think it's so funny. They said
It's
they do that kind of stuff because they know we want to show. They said they have
right.
to do something here and there because we want the show. They said, and it's kind of, I've seen that they really don't really want to act like that. They have a very
Mm-hmm.
diplomatic, it's almost like you're talking to a queen from like 5,000 years ago when you talk to some of these. Like they have that very regal, you know, voice and, cadence to their voice. I don't see them as being like silly. They do that for us, they said, because we want to see that. They'll put a show on, for us. Do you remember that? This reminds me of, you remember that scene in The Exorcist when they kept asking, Reagan to, do something, show us your power. And she was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Not right now. You remember that when they were trying to get her to open a drawer and things like that? She's like, no, I'm not going to do it right now because you can't just force me to put a show on. I'll do it when I'm ready, kind of thing. That's kind of how they are. They're like, nah, no thanks.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting,
I
isn't
also
it?
Yeah, because I also think like the scratching and stuff and the pushing, I feel like some, maybe not all cases, but I feel like a lot of cases are they're just trying to touch you and they put too much energy because they have to have a certain amount of energy into being able to like make contact. Like
So
the
difficult.
fuck's that movie with Patrick Swayze? They're freaking
Oh, Ghost, yeah.
I think it's Ghost, yeah, Ghost, where he's like he's really trying so hard to touch something physical, and when he finally does, he kicks a can across the subway. So he just wanted to touch it, and then it goes flying across the room.
It's so
So like I
difficult. That's
think,
why they use a lot of electricity to
yeah,
do it. That's why they use electricity. They'll kind of run through the lines of electricity and everything. It's hard to
mm-hmm,
do without an energy source. Sometimes they use electricity for a lot of different things. Cameras,
yeah, that's what,
phones, computers, routers, TV, everything. You know,
mm-hmm,
my TV was off the other
that's why.
day and it actually said hello to me. And I was just like,
Oh my god,
I was like, no,
I would
thank
have
you.
ran.
I was
I
like, and it was during
definitely
the
would have
day.
ran.
I was in the bathroom and I was, fixing my hair and the TV was off and it went, hello. And I'm like, no, not today. I'm not in the mood right now. I got to get ready. I can't do this right now. I was like, so I kind of forced myself to ignore it. So I'm like, oh
Yeah.
yeah. I did have the only time, well, it didn't I have had things physically, express
Yeah.
themselves to me over the, since I was a child. I've had different things like actually touch me and I feel it. So some of them can get through that barrier. They must have had to push a lot of energy though to do it. But there was one time, the only time I've actually been attacked by an entity, it was I was under hypnosis and I was trying to do a remote viewing to get information, and I was helping a friend, and he had a succubus attachment. The succubus was like in love with him,
Shit.
and
Yeah.
she was jealous that I was around him. So I started I started going under trance, and as soon as I did it, I saw her, and she came. You remember I told you I like to see that house that guides me to where I want to be. She was there.
Yes.
She came to that house, and she literally just started choking me. And when somebody chokes you in the astral, you think it doesn't hurt, but it's real. It feels real. It is, and to me, it is real because I put so much energy into that astral form of mine. She was choking the crap out of me. And I was like, help, guys, help, pull me out. I'm like pretty much getting choked by this thing. And it was because she was jealous. She thinks this person is hers. And, I was, stepping in the middle of them or whatever. But that was really one of the only times I've actually been like physically attacked. There was another time that I was trying to remote view and I got pulled to this, kind of this house. And I'm trying to walk around this house and see where I'm at. And I walk in the kitchen and there was a woman standing there. And I think I was pulling myself to the one of those witches to see their house. And it looked like she had been like a normal person, like a teacher or something. She had like a little office and everything. And so I instantly kind of whooshed myself back to bed. Like I don't want to, I'm going too far. That's not a good idea. And I was laying in bed and I accidentally pulled her with me. She partially materialized on top of me and bit my astral arm. So you think that you don't have anything on the outside of your body, but there's a whole like layer of like this, etheric, part of you on the outside of your body, like just around you, almost like that aura. She bit that part and it felt real. I woke up like almost like screaming, like to get this. I was trying to pull her off and she had partially materialized. This is like crazy that I didn't know you could pull something when you're there and then you're trying to come back and you pull it with you. I don't even know how that happened. I don't know if she was similar to me and, and when she left, she said, next time ring the doorbell, like don't invade her home. She was kind of saying,
Yeah.
How dare you, don't next time, just ring the doorbell. You don't need to do this kind of thing, which it wasn't my intention. It was just, that's where I was pulled.
Wow. That's,
yes. If anybody wants to have a nightmare, they can listen to the show tonight.
Oh my God. Wow. That's wild. That is wild.
Yeah, it is. It is so much fun. Yeah. I say fun, but
yes.
It's a nightmare for other people, but I'd love, in the future, maybe way in the future, some point, I would love to do a demonstration. Just.
Oh, that would be dope. I
know. I've done it with maybe like one person, and it was amazing. Oh, I was going to talk about the most recent one I did, the most recent remote viewing and how.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Amazing session. I did it with a friend and my hypnotherapist. We're trying to get information just for the world, and General came through, and this is really interesting because I love having witnesses to what I can do. So I had two witnesses. One of the people was guiding me kind of, and I was able to kind of host this General he says he's from 12.5 years in the future. He said he's been waiting so long to get this message through. It's very difficult to send a message back to where we are. They've been waiting for me to get myself to a certain, I don't know, I guess ability stage in order to receive that message. So he starts talking and he's saying they're in the future, 12.5 to 15 years, very dire straits for us here in the world. And he's the kind of like the leader of like a private military group that's trying to start a revolution to take, kind of take our world back from those that are, kind of like the overlords in power. He said they're in dire straits. And
wow.
He said there's a group here now. They're called the Olympia group. and it's a group of children that are about, I don't know, I want to say around 11-ish to probably 19, 20-ish. The, children, teenagers age right now. The huge group of them, they're called the Olympia group. He said they all came in kind of at the same time, volunteers in a way to help. And that they volunteered for this, and that many of them, what they are is, we call them what they consider computer kids. He said it's a hacker unit. They're going to be a really important hacker unit. He said, because in the future, technology is so advanced, we have no way to win unless we have these kids, these advanced computer kids. He said, because it's not really fought in the future with like hand-to-hand combat, it's tech. He said, if we don't have these kids, we're not going to win. He said they're in really serious situation right now. And he said, my directive is to tell the world that to protect the Olympia group at all costs, to protect children, protect this group. If we don't protect these kids and make sure that they grow up and they can be part of this revolution, it's probably going to be a bad situation. I don't want to say over for us, but a bad situation. So that was his main directive, is to tell us that we need to protect them at all costs. They're more important than anybody right now to win the war in the future, the revolution. So to me, I told him, I was like, it's the same message I always tell them. I'm like, I'm just a girl. What do I do with this information? And he just tell the world to protect children, tell the world to protect the Olympia group. We need them. There is no winning this war without them. So it was amazing. So we're getting this information, and I'm going further and further, looking around. I was there at their base, and I can feel another group. I kind of call them the counter team. There's, I'm trying to infiltrate these other agencies and get information. And they have people just like me. They have remote viewers themselves that are trained just like me. And they use us against each other. I'm trying to get information to help people, and they're trying to stop that. They don't want that out. So they have their own people that they work with. And we're trying to remote view and get information. And towards the end, I'm like getting nervous. I'm like, I think, I can feel something. I can see something. Because in my mind, I can see an eye. And anytime, if you're a remote viewer and you start seeing eyes, people are looking at you. They're remote viewing you. So somebody was seeing me, laying in my bed, giving, under trance, giving these people information, important information about, government documents, information about handlers and agencies and secret agencies, names and places of people that we shouldn't know about. And when I started doing that, I started to get nervous. My highest self was like, something's wrong. I can tell. And I kept telling, the hypnotherapist, something's wrong. I might have to pull out. And they're kind of like, so interested in information. Like, well, what's wrong? Like, no, we haven't had this happen before. What's wrong? And I said, I got to go. There's something. And right at that moment, I saw kind of like this hole. I'm thinking about looking inside my mind. There's a hole opening up inside my mind, and I see a hand coming through it. And at that moment, I got the name. I wanted to get the name of these people before I pulled myself back so quickly, because something was coming through like my head. And I don't know what they can do. Obviously, they're expertly trained if they can put their hand in somebody's head. This is expert. And I got the name of it. It's an agency called Ronin. So it's very important. So, keep an eye out for these types of people. This is a kind of like a mercenary group. They have their own trained assets that do that kind of thing.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's crazy. Dangerous work.
Oh, my God. That's crazy. I don't like it.
I didn't like it at the time either.
So
I was nervous.
Were you, yeah, I can imagine. Were you given the target?
No, I don't get nobody gives me any target.
No.
So there's a different type of remote viewing where they use coordinates and targets. They use that.
Yeah.
I don't have to use that because I'm using a psychic ability to do it. They're using a scientific process.
Yep.
I'm using a psychic ability. And the more I do it, I think the more these people in power know that I'm doing it. They're kind of like I said, when I'm looking, I'm starting to see people looking back. So they're seeing me do this. I'm seeing them. They're seeing me. I'm not quite sure what would have
Damn,
happened if I would
son.
have not pulled myself back from that. But that person,
Yeah.
however strong he was pushing his hand through the front of my head. Imagine like a horror movie where somebody's getting fingers pushed through the front of their head, inside, going inside my head. So,
ugh.
yeah, it was trippy to see that. And I don't know what his goal was. What could he have done if I wouldn't have pulled back then? What could have happened? What would have been the outcome? What is it? Aneurysm, or I don't know. I don't know how, because whether we want to believe it or not, the government does have people that are trained that are that good. I hate to say it, they are that good. They can do things like that. There are psychic assassins. You can even make a psychic voodoo doll. You can make needles with your mind and harm someone. There are psychic voodoo dolls. These are expertly trained people. This is a real thing. You can even look it up. There's CIA website, there's archives, there's a lot of information about this kind of, these experiments, all kinds of things.
Do you think that this person knows who you are?
Oh, no, more than knows who I am, because he was inside my head. He more than knows who I am. They all do, because I've made myself, kind of like a public person to get this information out to people.
Right. And
yeah, it was really interesting.
That's obviously why you don't want to share your face and stuff like that, which is understandable.
Yeah, because I'm doing risky things, and I've taken the risk for other people. I'm putting the information out there. I take the risk. I get the information to people,
right?
And they can do what they want with it. It's totally up to them. If they hate it and think I'm full of crap, that's it's their choice. But like I said, I have witnesses to everything I'm doing.
Right, free will.
Yeah.
Right. Right. You did say that you have things to prove what you're saying if you need to the last time you were
If
on.
I had to, I have
yeah.
Especially with things with my father, that's definitely provable. That's provable by court or anything like that. That's very provable. Like for me, I record everything I do because that's my proof. I write all the books, all the information that I've obtained is in books. I put all the information in videos and things like that, so I'm not holding it. I want to make sure everybody has it because I'm going through all this just to get the information. So if anybody feels inclined to watch it, it's there.
It's risky business.
Yeah, very interesting. Once you get into it.
Yes. I just found you on TikTok, so even though it's gonna go away on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm hoping not, but
supposedly.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
I was just saying, like an hour or two ago, there's so many other things that our government could be focusing on, and they choose this to focus on, which I'm totally fine with if it goes away.
Yeah,
but I'm just
I
like,
am too. Like, I'm not,
I feel like there's bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, our life isn't over if it happens, There's other things.
Exactly. Oh man. This was amazing, Olivia. I appreciate you coming back on
thank you.
to do this. If you don't mind, to let everybody know where they can find your books and your social medias and stuff like that, where you share this information.
Yeah, I have 2 books out. I'm working on the 3rd one actually with all my new information. So that'll be out, I want to say probably next year. It's a work in progress. Some of them are very quick to be written, some take longer. But I have 2 books out right now, the Gray Mouse series. They're both on Amazon. The first one is called Gray Mouse Sex, Space, and Mind Control. And the second one is Gray Mouse Purgatory. And the second book is my favorite because it's all about the duality and all the work I've done to show the duality of the world. It's really my favorite one. I'm on all the socials pretty much. Twitter X, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, looking to put all my videos on YouTube too, in case anybody wants to see them. All the videos I make are pretty much excerpts from my books. So if somebody's not really into reading, they can also find the information there. I place it there for everyone so they can catch on there too.
Oh, I like it. I'll have to find you on YouTube now.
Yeah, I'm under Grey Mouse
yeah,
Chronicle on YouTube.
Cool. All right. Yeah, so this was another good conversation.
Yeah.
I love, not only do I love listening to you talk, like your experiences are wild and extremely interesting, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing them. So
Yeah, thank you so much for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. The door's open for you at this point. But for all the listeners, if you don't mind, please show Olivia some love on one of her channels, or check out her book or whatever. But if you like today's episode, you like any of my other episodes, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. I'd greatly appreciate it. If your catcher doesn't allow you to leave a review, you can leave one on the website, where the weird ones are podcast.com. That is also where you can get hot sauce, coffee, and some merch. I did just release a new t-shirt design, which is a little ghost buddy wearing a hat with a mug of beer. So I think it came out really cute, if I do say so myself. But other than that, you all know the drill. Question everything and stay weird.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky, when the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day. Make a wish.